subscribe to the channel for more toys and action figure reviews. And I'll see you guys in the next part, talk about more about the hammer and all that stuff. Where is the Wrecker's hammer anyway? There it is. Anyway, now getting right on into the second half of the rest of the Wreck and Rule Collection figures. And, yeah, we'll just start with that packaging. And now taking a look at these boxes. Again, amazing artwork here. Love the G2 Leadfoot and everything, just looks really awesome. Then some product shots on the back. And then same thing right here, only that Impactor and Spindle, and these figures look really awesome as well. And then some more product shots on the back of that as well. And now that I have all of the figures, I have the last piece of the hammer, so I can now take the hammer here and I can now stick it right into there like so. And that creates for a very nice looking display piece. I love the mechanical detailing on this, but the Cybertronian text here, this up here says creator of the Wrecker's Resistance, and then this right here has the name Emirate Zaron. So that's a really cool, obscure, lore-based character to have a reference to in this collection of figures. And here are all of the accessories included with these 4 figures. First of all, the Spindle does come with that same tail weapon as the other fossilizer. The Masterdominus, his tusks form the battle claw weapon. Also, just letting you know, these tusks are also individual accessories of their own. So this could also lead to this part looking more like a gun. But just letting you know, those are separate parts. I just prefer to leave them on. And then Impactor comes with his classic hook hand thing, only it's painted in a nice silver metallic paint, which looks really nice. And for some reason, his little shoulder cannon comes as the barrel comes as its own separate piece. The original Siege one didn't have this, so I thought that was kind of weird. And then Impactor comes with his classic rifle that he did have on that original Siege figure, so very nice little accessory here, not much waffling going on. And then finally, the G2 Leadfoot figure comes with both of the accessories that you get with the Mirage figure, only they're cast out in black plastic, and also he has this blue metallic rocket right there on his rocket launcher, so really cool set of accessories. And as for weapon storage, Spindle just has the sword peg right there on Spindle's back. For Masterdominus, obviously you can either plug it into his hand, or you can just plug it right back here, back onto the skull. And that's pretty good, only except it does weigh down the joint right there, so just let that be aware. Or you could also remove the tusks, leave that part on, and then have the tusks in his hands as individual weapons. And then, as I mentioned before, Impactor's cannon is a separate part, and then when you have that wrist folded in, you can plug in his little hook hand right there, and then the gun you can either just plug on his back or in his hand, so there's weapon storage for Impactor. And as for Leadfoot, obviously you can plug him into his hand, or he's got a bunch of 5mm pegs on his back, which you can also plug in a bunch of the accessories into as well. So that's it for weapon storage. We'll start the review by taking a look at Spindle and Impactor first. Yeah, so starting off with Spindle here. Now, Spindle here is a direct retool / repaint of the fossilizer, the T-Rex one. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Instead of a T-Rex, it's a Spinosaurus fossilizer. I love the Spinosaurus. The Spinosaurus is my favorite dinosaur. But the execution of this figure was not done well. First of all, there are some new parts, like for example right here on the shoulder, there's this huge Spinosaurus spine used as a shoulder pad, and there's even a little bit of it sticking out in the gut. There's also this new chest piece, which looks really nice, and overall the brand new color scheme, and then obviously the new jaw and everything for the skull of the Spinosaurus. But the problem with this figure is that the quality control absolutely sucks. First of all, this joint right here in the head is way too loose, and I wish that it somehow snapped in. Also, this chest piece comes out a little too easily. One other thing on top of this that absolutely bugs the shit out of me. I go in, doing my regular thing, posing the figure around, and then I go to twist the wrist, and there it goes. There it goes. And this one kind of doesn't really do it as much, but if you... Oh, this one just did it too. This figure would have been really cool in theory, but it would have been nice if it actually would hold together. And also the little Wrecker logo on the shin is pretty cool, I guess. As for Spindle's poseability, Spindle can... Spindle can rotate the head and can look up and down, though it's kind of hard to do. Shoulders can both rotate a full 360. They can move in and out. There is bicep rotation, bend at the elbow, wrist swivel, waist swivel. Hips can kick forward. They can kick back that very far. They can move outward. Thigh swivel, knee swivel, bend at the knee, weird inward bend. And then finally, these little bits back here on the ankles allow for some stability, but I just don't care. Taking a look at Impactor, Impactor is basically the exact opposite of Spindle. My only complaint on Impactor is, like, overall, is these huge gaps in his legs, and those are present on the Siege figure. But then again, you don't really notice them all that much, but I really wish they would have been filled in maybe just that little bit. But the only other thing that does also bug me about this figure is the head sculpt. Like, the head sculpt is molded very well, but since this is based on the comics, he has a very fleshy, almost humanoid kind of look to his face, and it looks a little bit weird for Impactor. So for some people, it might not bug them, but for me, it just looks a little bit weird, especially around the lips and the cheekbones. Like, that still doesn't mean that this guy's a bad figure, it's just my personal preference. And honestly, Impactor here is going to be one of my favorites of the entire set. We'll take a look at the comparisons in a minute, but Impactor has this new chest piece right here on like the Siege one, which is really nice. I like the gold paint and the metallic the metallic Wreckers logo is always a lovely touch. And because this figure is from Siege, he is covered in mechanical detail all around, and it is complemented by the paint scheme and the colors. And I absolutely adore this Impactor figure so much, even down to some of his back kibble, like being so minimal. Briefly going over the poseability, his head is on a ball joint that can swivel all the way around. If you untab this little back piece, you can make him hinge his head upward so you can look up that far. Shoulders can rotate a full 360. They can move up that far, and then due to transformation, they can move up even farther. He does get a bicep swivel, single jointed elbow that bends at 90 degrees. This piece can rotate, but the actual wrists inside do not rotate. He does have a abdomen like waist rotation, and then if you unpeg this transformation joint, it allows for a very nice ab crunch. His hips can move forward, they can move back, they can move outward pretty far on soft ratchets. He does get a knee swivel, bend at the knee at 90 degrees, and then his ankles have this inward ankle pivot, and then he has some movement at the toe. Very good articulation on this guy, and again, he doesn't fall apart. And now taking a look at Masterdominus and the G2 Leadfoot here. I love this set of figures, but we're going to start with the fossilizer like we did last time. And one thing I will say right off the bat, this figure I definitely like a little bit better than Spindle because it doesn't fall apart as easy as Spindle. But that being said, he still does fall apart. For some odd reason, this little ribcage piece is supposed to tab in or be glued in Hasbro's stupid quality control, which sucks ass. Other than that, everything else on this figure feels good. Some of the joints are a little too loose for my taste, but they still hold poses. My only other issue with the figure is, since they added these extra limb parts right here, and they want you to add these onto the arms, it just feels so tacked on. But overall, I still think this figure is definitely better than Spindle to an extent. Getting into some of the closer details here, I do like Masterdominus' head sculpt here, looks very good. He does have this little battle mask thing that shifts down, but that's more for transformation. And again, the head sculpt looks really good. I think they made a nice, unique head sculpt that looks very good. And again, the color scheme here with the black and gold looks very nice. And the red inside the rib cages is very nice as well. Also, I like how the skull here, I love the idea of a Mastodon fossilizer. Just the mammoth skull and everything on the side. Like, love the idea. But the only problem is sometimes getting into some of the other posability on this figure. The head can swivel, can't really look up or down. Shoulders can rotate a full 360 when they don't fall off. Hinges out right here, hinges out right here as well. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. This hinges and this hinges, I guess. And waist swivel, hips can kick back and forward and move outward. And thigh swivels and Bends at the knee, very nice ankle pivot. This head also can shift up and down with some more joints. And then this part's removable is shown, and then that totally doesn't look scary at all. Don't get me wrong, I really want to love these figures, but they just absolutely suck! And now getting into one of my favorite figures of the entire Wreck and Rule collection set, here we have the G2 Universe Leadfoot. This is a repaint and slash slight retool of the Kingdom Earth Mode Mirage, which I never got my hands on. The new head sculpt looks absolutely phenomenal. I love the really cool yellow coloring with the red visor. Like, it's just a cool robot head design. Love the way it came out. And normally the bright yellow and blue and like those bright, vibrant neon colors normally bug me from G2, but I actually really love how they came out here on this mold. I really do love a lot of the detail that went into this figure a lot more than the other ones. I also love that Hasbro didn't skimp out on the blue here. They could have easily just made this blue plastic, but they went the extra mile and painted all of this waist down into bright metallic blue, which really shimmers on camera when you get it in the light. Going over Leadfoot's poseability, his head can rotate a full 360. It can look up and down ever so slightly. Shoulders can rotate a full 360. This thing hinges, and then if you untab this, no, not that. If you untab this, it allows for an ab crunch, but what I was trying to do is if you untab this little shoulder bit, it allows for some butterfly joint movement. And then this shoulder can hinge up and down, can rotate a full 360. He does have a bicep swivel, 90 degrees of bend of elbow. Wrists can hinge in and out due to transformation. Waist swivel, ab crunch as I mentioned. Hips can move forward, they can move back, they can move outward. Thigh swivel, bend at the knee. Ankles can hinge up and down, and some very good ankle pivot. And then for comparisons, here's the Wreck and Rule Collection's Impactor and Spindle next to the Siege, Impactor, and Paleotrex. And then here is the Leadfoot and the Masterdominus compared next to the only other figures I have of their molds. I have the Siege Decepticon Disguise Mirage, and then the Hasbro Pulse exclusive Tricranius Fossilizer. And here is just a quick look at all of the Wreckers all together. Not a bad looking set of figures, but like I mentioned before, I'll mention my full thoughts on the whole set at the end. And now getting into these guys' transformations. Sure if you guys could tell during the transformation because how fast I had it going, but when I was doing these two, I really was struggling to keep it together. Not just keep the actual figures together, but also my sanity. Taking a look at Spindle first, because I just really want to get this one over with. Again, looks very good. I like the colors, and it's a skeleton Spinosaurus. I love the Spinosaurus, but as I mentioned before, this thing is absolute garbage when it comes to how it feels. As for the details, every single bit of detail that's on this figure is literally the exact same that I already just showed off to you guys. Also, remember those wrists I told you about that kept falling off? Those are now the ankles of this figure. So now when you try to go in and get it to stand up, it don't want to because its feet keep falling off. And whoo-hoo is Impactor's tank mode. Again, the exact opposite of that Spinosaurus. The figure has that amazing color scheme as well. Love the way it came out. And again, the articulation and the transformation work in tandem with each other and create for a very nice tank mode. That ab crunch and that little like odd looking abdomen waist allows for the turret to actually rotate, which is really awesome because sometimes tank modes will kind of skimp out on that. The turret can hinge up and down, and like it's got all that stuff that you'll need for a tank to move around. And then also for the tank moving around, these treads are done in a nice silver paint. Got these nice little jabs, these little spiky jabs in the front. Looks very good. molded in detail of like some turrets and all this purple and like this kind of caramely, kind of yellow mustard color with the purple and the bits of gold and everything is just really awesome. And on top of that, with all the mechanical detailing this figure has, this thing is just an absolute joy to play with. I cannot emphasize how much I love this figure. Again, I love the idea of the fossilizing, transforming, a mastodon or a mammoth for you small-minded people in the audience. But the feel of the figure absolutely sucks. Again, I want to love these fossilizers, but they just absolutely suck in their quality. All the same articulation is there with the head moving up and down, only the joint here is still loose. The jaw can open very far. Legs can hinge all over the place with all these different hinge joints. By the way, this rib cage still comes off pretty easily. This leg also moves all over the place, and these legs hinge forward and back. This abdomen section can move. Biceps swivel, bend at the knee, ankle pivot, tail can move up and down, a little nub at the end. You get the idea. I want to be done with this figure. Get him out of here. And whoo boy, does this vehicle mode look so awesome. I love that Formula One car mode that Mirage had, but now it's done in that bright yellow and blue. And also I do love the touch of the little red 93 right there. Nice G2 reference. And again, the painting and sculpting and everything looks absolutely great on this guy. Again, those red stripes, again paired with the 93 and the color scheme just works so well for this. This thing looks fast enough that it can outrun my problems. And trust me, I have a lot of those. Again, rolls really well, and weapon storage, just plug them in on the side. Like, there's really nothing I can really complain about this vehicle mode. And then here is Spindle and Impactor next to the Siege Impactor and Kingdom Paleotrex. Here is the Fossilizer, Masterdominus, and the G2 Leadfoot compared next to the Decepticon Mirage and the Tricranius. And then here is all of the Wreck and Rule Collection Wreckers, all in their alternate modes. And that is basically it for my review on the Wreck and Rule Collections, Wreck and Rule Collection figures. And, yeah, the entire set is honestly kind of half and half on me. Half of them I like, and half of them I feel like are not really as worth it. Specifically, my favorite, I'll put them in the order of which ones are my favorite. My number one favorite out of all of them has got to be the G2 Leadfoot. My second favorite is the Impactor. My third favorite is the Springer and the Twin Twist. And then my fourth favorite is the Bulkhead. And then my fifth favorite is tied between the two Fossilizers. But overall, if I had to give the entire set a rating, I give it a solid 6 out of 10. I was kind of impressed with some of them, and then some of them kind of fell very flat. And then if I had to give some of them individual ratings, the Leadfoot, I give him a solid 9 out of 10. The Spindle, I give a solid 3 out of 10. And then the Mastodon, I give a solid 4 out of 10. And then the Impactor, I give him a solid 8 out of 10. That's basically it for this review. If you guys enjoyed or hated the video, I don't know, leave a like on the video. And, but yeah, that is it for the review. Thank you all for watching. This has been Briximus Prime. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.